So we are joined by Lee. This is a little bit different from we normally do it. This is Lee Rickards. He works for Boxing Science. He is a sports performance nutritionist. He's worked with some high-level soccer players, jockeys, as well as MMA and boxing for the combat sport. We're going to look at some of the weight making information that he's got. He's one of the best in the UK for weight making sports, and I do believe that. And it's not just because I work with him. One of the things that when I was looking for a nutritionist was I spent a bit of time with my conditioning coach looking for who would be the best and who would be the best suited to making middleweight. It's a huge cut we do, and we need to make sure that we're well prepared. And from this we got Lee. First question I want to know is, why nutrition? Like, I'm assuming you went to uni and done all this stuff.
I was a little fat boy.
Were you?
Yes, I was very podgy. And I used to do boxing when I was about year 7 at school. I did it to about year 10, and I just had a little fat boy who was pretty decent in ring, but just couldn't make weight. And
I didn't expect that. Like, so see, the very first time I seen you take off your t-shirt, like me and Adam, we both went, fucking hell, you're buying some meat, man. Like, so you hide it very well. Like, you obviously, you're not a guy who's obviously jumping about with your t-shirt off a lot of the time.
Nah, it's not me.
But your underneath that t-shirt is pretty shredded. So that was your reason for just being interested in food?
I always liked food. Could always eat when I was younger. Did a lot of sport, a lot of exercise, did everything. I used to play basketball, played football, played cricket at a decent level, did boxing, like amateur boxing. I just always fat. And then
was it just through nutrition?
Yeah.
Just overconsumption of foods?
Just eating rubbish.
You grew up in the 90s into the 2000s,
yes.
So it was like pretty much the same as myself, and it was very high processed, and I came from like a very middle class background where it was
pizza and chips.
Aye. And it was like straight out freezer surprise.
Exactly, yeah. Something quick to pick up from school. And just that. And my grandparents brought me up a lot. Because my mum and dad were always, dad used to work abroad, mum used to work.
Potatoes.
Yeah, so it was literally grandparents are feeders. And just always give me something to eat.
When I used to go to my grand's, and I never ever cut as much weight as I did when I was a middleweight. She would always be like, let's feed you up, son. You don't look well. Mm-hmm. So that was your, as a kid, that's why you wanted to get in nutrition, and you were set straight from day one.
I just was stronger as a subject. So every time I did a nutrition module, whether it was at school, whether it was at college, and it was mainly at college when I did it, because I went to college twice. I went first time to do public services. When you leave school, you don't know what you're going to do.
I know, it's tough.
And I did public services, and I realised it's not what I want to do. So I started messing about a lot, and they told me to go on my way. And then reality hit home, and I'm like, what am I going to do? So then I went back and did sport, did nutrition module, and then the woman who looked after me, called Vanessa, just like, you're pretty good at it. I think you should probably go and do it at university. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. And then just carried on. And I kept enjoying it and enjoying it more. And I suppose it was lucky that 10 years ago, really, there weren't many nutritionists about. It weren't really a popular thing. And it's just avalanche and snowball effect. And I've just gone along with flow.
And then why boxing? Like, was it just because of love for boxing?
I always loved it. My sporting hero when I was a kid was Ricky Hatton. I remember going to one of his fights, and it's best atmosphere I've still know to this day. And I've been at some decent events for work, but that was unbelievable. And also, if you think of kind of environment, so like here at Scotland, you're pretty good MMA wise, got some decent gyms like with a higher level and stuff like that, like a really top gym, say in Europe. And in Sheffield's really good base for boxing.
So you seem like an opportunity. You were like, if I can.
Well, Danny kind of the co-founder of Boxing Science did. He didn't think it'd get to the level we're at now, and I just was like, yeah, I like it. And also, when you work in football, not everyone probably listens to you because they don't really need to make weight. And some of them are absolute brilliant guys. Some of them are up their own bums. Whereas in boxing, usually all yourselves
got
to make weight, you usually listen and do what you need to do.
I noticed that as a kid, like it was the same type of person who was a footballer. Like through all high school, you could tell who was going to be who played football and who had the exact same mentality. They were like carbon copies of each other, and they rely on a lot of skill.
Yeah.
Whereas if they could maybe just improve nutrition, they'd be able to see the benefits of being a little bit leaner, being able to produce higher power output. They'd be a much better footballer.
Yeah.
But they don't have it's in the culture of soccer, I think. But I saw you started working. How did you end up in Sheffield? Sheffield United.
Sheffield United. So I was, believe it or not, I was only a second year student at university. I did an internship, and they just got a new manager who were really into sports science at the time. But they had no nutritionist, and they had no money for a nutritionist neither. So I just like,
Aye.
I'll do it. And literally I did it for free. So I did it for free for like 18 months. And I was a second year student, so just turned 18, and I'm telling players just relegated from Premier League, they can't have jam on toast at breakfast, and they're a big uproar. They're going absolute mental, getting ready to basically kill me. I was testing the pea pots when I was a little intern, so the manager wanted to look at hydration, so I was there testing the old peas and stuff like that, and they pulled a good prank on me. There was a player called Tony McMahon, and he put his pea pot on there, so I'm there analysing it, and I go and he picks it up and drinks it.
Apple.
And I'm looking at him like, oh, what? And I didn't even register it because I was quite a naive young kid just wanting to do my job and loving it, and I still couldn't do it. And then the head of sports science who were there called Lee Rickards, who was the top guy, just saying, "Hit orange juice, you know bed." And I'm like, oh.
Proper concentrated piss.
Yes.
So then you went for that, and then you decided to go full time with boxing science because it's obviously taking off massively.
Yep.
But then you still dip your toe in the world of jockeys.
Jockeys, yes.
I was so impressed with this.
Yeah.
I had no idea that there's so much goes into the nutrition side of jockeys, because I thought it was like, it's a horse. But it's not. There's obviously some making sport.
Yeah, so about 18 months ago now, saw a vacancy come up, and it was the guy who put it out called Dan Martin, who I've known of for many years, a really good, clever, smart guy. And a vacancy came up in Yorkshire for weight making, basically a weight making nutritionist. And my dad's always been mad on horse racing, same as my granddad, and I had a bit of knowledge on it. And I didn't go up there thinking I need this job, does that make sense? I just went up to see what it were like, and then they showed me around facilities, and I just couldn't believe how good facilities were. I'm like, it's better than Premier League football club I've been working at. And it was a consultancy role, so it basically 1 day a week to 2 days a week, and then you kind of pick and choose where to go, race courses, etc. And it just felt right. I had an interview, got it, and I still to this day I absolutely love it. It's and it ties in really well. Weight making, nutrition, they've got to make weight every day, almost 6 times a day if they've got 6 races, weigh in, weigh out, and then they're riding a 40-mile-per-hour horse, jumping over fences, which are pretty high.
I know, like, the concussion rate in that is huge in comparison to combat sports.
Yeah,
because there's so much power going into these jumps, and their heads are when the fluid is extracted from the body, then one of the places it comes from is the brain, and the skull, and it just kind of rattles about in there.
I think what I'm saying is right. There's more deaths in horse racing than combat sports. And when you fall from a horse, I think you've got 0.6 milliseconds from when you fall to hit the floor. And now they're saying you want to fall in a certain way so you don't get paralysed, basically. So you've got 0.6 milliseconds to react for a big fall to get into a position so basically you can walk again. And some jockeys still don't do it to this day. Still some pretty horrific stories from past few months which have happened, which ain't nice. And if you're dehydrated, so 2% dehydration reduces reaction time, concentration, memory, attention. So if you're dehydrated and then you're jumping over them fences, your risk of magnitude of a bigger injury is much more severe.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And then because some are making weight every day, so literally think of the weight cut you do, and you'll be surprised from some of their body masses, because they're still small, some of them will be doing almost an equivalent weight cut to you guys.
6 days a week?
Yeah, almost every day. That's honest truth. I know some.
What's their health, like long impact health issues that are going to occur? Because obviously, I know when I'm making weight, and that last time when we fought Alan, one of the things that went was my testosterone.
Yeah.
And I know it's not a massive thing for people in horse racing to have testosterone. Well, in fact, I don't know. But I know for a combat athlete, it's good to have high testosterone. With regards to being a jockey, so I imagine the testosterone levels must just be totally shot.
Testosterone really low. They have very impaired mood, really ratty, get quite, just ratty, miserable, irritable. And then because they're making weight every day, and then also they usually a typical jockey's diet is eat nothing all day, and then after the last race, that's when they will eat, and that's only when they will usually eat. And that's it.
Is it more like a gorging process as well?
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of disordered eating, as there is in weight making sports anyway. But because the turnover of them sweating a lot and then not eating much, and then the bones just become brittle, and they've got low bone mineral density. And that's why literally if you get a kick off a horse, like it can snap anybody's leg, but literally it goes straight through some jockey's legs. Literally it'll just snap tibia and fibula straight in half.
It's something we don't realise. It's like you see them on the horse and you think it's all about we obviously know jockeys have a massive impact on what the horses do, but you don't realise what these guys are putting their bodies through.
There were one jockey recently who had was nutrition were pretty poor or lifestyle, and the horse just were a bit keen and went like that, and he just felt a snapped his hand.
Because he's holding on, it's just a quick jog.
And then they were like, we best send you for a DEXA scan, which assesses your bone mineral density, which you've done at USEPI. And you have a Z score, and if you minus that, you're lower than the general population. And his were like 2-3 times lower than a normal person. Wow. And then to be fair, he came back, and I saw him about 6 to 8 weeks later at a race course, and you're like, that's gave me the kick up arse I needed. And he changed literally all his nutrition. He's doing a lot better now. Sometimes people need a bit of evidence and a scare.
Did you get about a lot of pushback? Like you were obviously saying about soccer, you get a bit of pushback. You find that it's a lot different in combat sports because these guys are like, especially if somebody's paying you to do this, like personally, they're going to listen to you more. Are you getting a lot of kickback for jockeys who are like, we don't do it this way? Yeah,
sometimes because it's not coming out of the jockeys' pockets. It's part of their membership with PGA, which for an organisation governing body, I rank them really high because they look after their athletes. How I rank like UFC because I know in a lot of UFC people trying to compare prize money compared to boxing and stuff like that. Personally, I think UFC look after their athletes better than boxing do. Just where the services they look after in terms like the PI, you can use all that. They'll try and help you with a nutritionist and stuff like that. In boxing, there's not like that. And same with jockeys. So because it's sometimes paid for them, they've got it on the doorstep. They don't necessarily utilise it. The best way to do it, and it's what we do, is cost some part with the Injured Jockeys Fund as well, is usually when a jockey is injured or they get injured, straight away the Injured Jockeys Fund know, they get an email to send it to us. So it's like, I'm Paul Craig, I've just fell from a horse at Aintree and I'm having an operation in 2 days. They'll get notified. The chief medical officer will either get onto us or do it himself, send supplements straight away to them, either to the house or if they're in hospital. So they'll get like calcium, vitamin D supplementation to help the bones. And then I'll get on phone with them, talk them through, right then you should kind of want to eat this. And then when they come in, same again, go through kind of the diet with them. But then what you find with the injured jockeys is, because they've been making weight every day, sometimes for 3-4 years, they just go crazy. And when they're injured, you just don't see them because they're thinking, I haven't ate or drank in ages and I'm going to be off for 6-9 months. So some will get 2-3 stone heavier. On the other flip side, you've got some who, maybe it's not a massive injury, say a little shoulder injury for 4, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. They'll think, I want to get back racing. They don't eat anything still. And you're like, actually, that's not how your body repairs itself.
So
we actually, yeah. So it's always educating them that we're not the food police if they are injured. It's my ideal time to feed you, and that's what I want to do.
You were saying about recovery for injuries and all this kind of stuff. What's your go-to for injuries, supplementation-wise? I can guess what you're going to say, like good quality food.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say supplementation. Usually the key one is energy. People often complicate it in my eyes. Nothing works without energy. So if you've got a broken bone, if you haven't got the right energy, certain processes, you're not going to be able to build muscle.
Yep.
So if you want to build muscle, if you haven't got enough energy, that's it. If you want to lose body weight, but you're not tracking your energy intake, you're not going to lose weight. So energy is the main one. And then vitamin D3 is really important in terms of brain health and recovery. So everyone should be having like 2,000 to 4,000 IU per day. And even sometimes in summer months, literally, if I assess 20 people, I guarantee 15 to 18 will be deficient. So that'd be kind of the key one. Calcium you can usually get through your diet. And then protein, same again, you can usually get through your diet. So that'd be my main one.
Mm-hmm. Taking it back to MMA and boxing, what's one of the differences? Because was I the first kind of MMA athlete you really worked with?
Yeah.
What was the main differences? Because you worked with Sean Clancy
Yep.
and you've worked with a couple of
Yep.
guys with nutritional advice. What's the main differences you've found in the sports?
The thing is, what I find is boxing's heading the MMA way, and it shouldn't, if that makes sense. So,
what do you mean?
So the amount of weight you guys cut is like 10, 12% of your body weight on fight week. And you're doing that to have an advantage, really, because when you're grappling and lying on floor and wrestling, you want to be heavier than the other guy. So, but you've got a lot higher energy outputs than boxers because you're doing wrestling, striking, Muay Thai, kickboxing, strength and conditioning, jiu-jitsu. So you're training 2, sometimes 3 times a day, 6 times a week. So because of that, you can lose more weight because you're having more energy in total, mainly carbohydrates. Whereas boxers, what they seem to be doing now, which sometimes frustrates me, is they don't have as high energy outputs because it's either boxing, run or licensee. That's it. So they're training a lot less than you guys with a lot less food, and then they're thinking, well, because it's a performance advantage in MMA to cut 10, 12% of my fight week, we'll do the same because look what they're doing. And also what I don't get that much is when they're glorifying out weight cuts and stuff like that. I'm thinking, I'll do that because that's going to help me. Yeah,
it's like a badge of honour, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. In a striking sport, honestly, I don't think it plays a big difference at all. At all. And that's where some coaches probably don't like me because I always don't, the bigger guy don't always win.
Yep. And that must be quite difficult because you're coming in with the science-backed information, and then you go up against coaches that are like, well, we've been doing this for 30 years and I've produced 2 champions and how's this guy no better than me? So that must be difficult, and especially when you were saying like being an 18, 19-year-old kid getting into the world of nutrition and trying to advise men about how to do their job, then that must have had some heated conversations.
Yeah, definitely. You've just got to kind of go about it in the right way, almost kind of nudging and educating quite little and often along the way, rather than just going in and going, no, this is how it should be. Sometimes you almost kind of agree to disagree or just kind of meet halfway with them.
One of the things that I love about combat sports or weight making sports is the crazy stuff people do. One of the ones is like
I've got plenty.
Ilia Tapori, he drinks half a litre of wine before his weight cut. Do you think, it's a diuretic, isn't it? What's some of the best or some of the craziest myths that you've came across?
I've had a good few ones recently. Not necessarily kind of myths, but because you're all strong-headed and it's like, I'll do what it takes. I once said to someone, you need to have 60 gram of raw white rice with your dinner, and he ate it raw.
Just didn't cook it?
Didn't cook it. Didn't cook it at all. But he didn't really complain. He just went, I can't really do it. So that's one. I'm trying to think of another. So some were like around hydration or something. I think they asked me how around a kilogram or a litre of fluid, and they're like, how do I know which is which? It's the same. What's another one I had? More recently, with someone at Boxing Science, because he couldn't really be asked to cook, and he was getting some like packet rice, and on his planks it's quite light, were like 50 gram of brown rice, and he just were weighing 50 gram
of cooked brown rice.
Cooked brown rice, but in a microwave packet. And I'm not joking, it was less than a tablespoon. But this is the thing, I've been working with him for 2.5 years, and he hadn't said it. He only told me last week. and I went, I bet you're giving me such a bad day, and saying, I'm starving.
Aye. That's wild.
Yeah, literally, we're a tablespoon of rice.
Because you're obviously trying to cut corners, and I've done it myself with regards to cutting corners. Like, I'll be like, right, I know it says this, but I know I can get this, and it's easier to cook. But I would never have fallen for a tablespoon of cooked rice.
Yeah, there's that.
And then having to go in and perform.
Yeah.
One of the things that when we first started working was you tried to reset, you did reset my coffee tolerance.
Yeah.
So I'm a massive fan of coffee, drink loads of coffee throughout the day. And it was one of the things when we first started working, you're like, no coffee.
We'll cut that down.
Can you go into a wee bit of the detail of how and not important coffee is, but it's a performance enhancing drug, and it's
100%.
It's used well. I feel
right
I don't get the benefits from it as much as when you reset it.
Yeah.
Because what was it, a week, 2 weeks we did?
Yeah, we did a week complete off it.
It was horrible.
Yeah, you're getting ratty.
I know, I was like, can I just, nah. And, but after it, when I had my first coffee, I was wired. There's a lot of scientific based evidence out there about caffeine.
There's some recent evidence which actually shows that it doesn't matter if you abstain from it for a few days or you keep on it throughout, you're still going to have a performance effect. So not necessarily performance enhancing effects, but in terms of kind of health, what we want is you to kind of get used to being a bit less aroused, more relaxed, so then you can sleep better. And when I took you off the coffee and caffeine, it were almost like a deload rest week before we went into camp.
Yep.
And I didn't want you all wired in on it when really we're not training that hard. If anything, it were almost kind of a rest week. Also, it's an appetite suppressant, so when you are dieting, it's worldy because it's quite low calorie, quite high in polyphenols. A lot of good evidence on it in terms of brain health, cognitive function. So kind of want to use it at the right time. And it gets to a point when you get deeper in camp and we're getting lighter and lighter, that coffee's from 1 to 2 a day starts going up to 3 to 4. And then maybe sometimes 5, but it's one of those where because it's helping, I'm never going to say, right, we're 2 weeks out, Paul, I want you to come off coffee now. You triangle me.
definitely miss me up.
So it's just about at the right kind of time. So I'd sometimes just tell people, if you're out at camp and you're just chilling, even though like taste of coffee sometimes, maybe go decaf for a few days, just to try and maybe help you sleep and just probably help your appetite, stuff like that.
On the sleep element as well, one of the things that you had that you put into the plan, because we were speaking about melatonin and how it's not allowed to be sold in the UK. You can buy it in America. I've used melatonin. I find a negative effect on it, but some of the stuff you put into my diet is stuff like kiwis.
Yep.
And I was like, kiwis help you go to sleep?
Yes.
Like 2 kiwis at night?
2 kiwis at night. So there was a good study which showed that they gave insomnia patients 2 kiwis a night and it helped improve sleep. Now there's different aspects of sleep. There's sleep onset latency, so that's how long it takes you to fall asleep. There's kind of total kind of sleep quality. So when you are asleep, are you in a really good deep sleep? And then it's sometimes it's sleep quality as well as sleep duration. So having a couple of kiwis has actually been found. So the antioxidants in it, and sometimes they say like the tryptophan or melatonin, helps you to fall asleep much quicker. And also what it does, in my opinion, it gets you into a routine, and routine's good for athletes. This is one of my biggest pieces of advice is get into a routine, eat at the same points in the day, train at the same points in the day, and then kind of make sure we're waking up at the same point, same times in the day, and go to bed same time, because it just gets your body used to circadian rhythm, and so it knows when actually body temperature needs to be high, it knows when it needs to be low and calm down. So having like a little pre-bed snack as well, if it's like high in protein, like tryptophan and stuff, like Greek yogurt or a bit of cottage cheese, sometimes either a whey or casein protein, like either some kiwis, cherries or berries, can help you recover at night as well as sleep. So that's sometimes what we're always wanting people to do. And as well, it's not nice going to bed hungry.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes
a wee bit longer and your mind starts to wander and you're thinking, I could go this, I could go that. But you'd also mentioned cherry juice there as well. That was something else that you'd...
Yeah, so that's what I've been studying a bit for part of my PhD study. So cherry juice, again, it's meant to be quite high in melatonin. There haven't been many studies looking at it, so I'm not that sure. But what we do know is it's very high in antioxidants and polyphenols, and a lot of people who struggle with sleep, so a lot of insomnia kind of patients, that have a lot of oxidative stress. And that basically means you haven't got much antioxidants in your diet. Whereas when you increase antioxidants in your diet from an anti-inflammatory kind of aspect and stuff, it helps kind of promote sleep. And we know a lot of like berries can help brain function. So sometimes using a supplement in terms of like monosaccharic tart cherry juice, one in the morning, one at night, like little sachets you can get, can same again, just help that recovery and improve that sleep.
Yeah, I've been taking the cherry juice. Beet It have got cherry juice infused with beetroot juice.
Yep.
And I feel like when I've had that, I have a tremendous night's
sleep. That's interesting.
And
So I was questioning it, because I was thinking, I don't know how much cherry is going to be in that to have an effect.
It tastes much better than the
beetroot,
beetroot juice.
Violent it.
So I've been taking beetroot juice. I'd seen, I'm not sure where it was but like a study. I'd seen somebody had put it online, and then for that day I've just been taking cherry juice, and beetroot juice, and I've taken it pretty regularly for the last 5 years. But what I did notice is when you actually got me to put morning and night, it made a difference rather than just having one of these one shot. And I know it's concentrated, but having it at morning and night made a huge difference.
You need to load it.
I think so. And it could just be like a placebo, but some of these like placebos
a lot of the studies have been just done in kind of university students, not done in well-trained athletes. Fitter you are, the more antioxidative kind of mechanisms you got from exercise. So actually you probably need to load it for a lot longer than most people's. So it's probably having like 2 shots a day for 3-4 days before competition is the right way to go.
I had bought the super concentrated stuff, and you know exactly what I've done. I've went like that, and it's super concentrated. So I think it's equivalent to like 6 of these shots in one bottle, and I ended up drinking half of it. And it was so concentrated, it was like drawing my face together. But I never made that mistake.
Speaking of the crazy stuff I've seen, I once saw a female boxer who I was working with, and I told her to have the beet it shots, and she weren't telling me. And she was having the full beetroot juice.
Oh, the big bottle.
Yeah, the big bottle. Like, tastes like absolute garbage. Like, go back in your back garden and eat soil.
Right.
But there isn't basically anything in it in terms of nitrate. So literally she was doing it for nothing.
Would you say so they condense shots with the nitrate, would you suggest athletes take that rather than getting it from the food?
You can get it from food. There has been some good studies done on a high nitrate diet, improving performance. So like a lot of kind of spinach, rocket, celery. It is very hard to do. Literally you're going to be eating salads for the rest of your life. So just to have the 2 shots, more practical, get it in you, it's easier to do.
For combat athletes, what is your supplementation? I know it there, but the guys out there don't know. What's your, let's say, your top 5 supplementation for combat athletes?
Creatine. Look after your brain health, more important, but as well as performance effects. There's so many myths around it. And I think the reason why there's many myths around it is because there's a lot of bodybuilders who run anabolic steroids, and probably still some combat sport athletes who are, and they go, it's creatine. It's not. You're on a lot of testosterone, but it improves almost any aspect of performance and health. It's crazy, literally. So it improves brain health, brain function, reduces dementia, reduces Alzheimer's, improves anaerobic performance, can help glycogen resynthesis. So Sean over there's, when he's rehydrating and refueling now, we've got some creatine to help with that process. Also, I want to put a lot in around the weighing because one of my priorities other than your performance is your health. So if you're getting a lot of hits to the head, I want to make sure that we're trying to look after it. So that'd be certainly number one. Vitamin D.
See where we're on creatine?
Yep.
Do you think, because obviously the water retention as well with creatine, do you think it's the benefits far outweigh the cost of bringing the weight down for weight making athletes?
Personally, I don't think it makes that much of an effect. No. Usually the difference is with that creatine, you've probably doing a bit more better strength and conditioning and probably eating a bit better, more protein, so you've put on some lean body mass. But this is where a lot of people don't take it, and I know a lot of well-known nutritionists who don't use it for that aspect. But because I've got a degree and I'm also got my accreditation in strength and conditioning, I'm always, as you know, because I work with Danny and Adam really close, we know it's going to improve your performance. So if you're going to put muscle on, hey, we're going to put muscle on. It's a good thing. We're going to get stronger.
Especially if you're going up against another athlete.
Yeah. Well, that's muscle. Like kind of same with this camp with you. We had him. He left me a voice note and he went, mate, fuck it, I'm getting him stronger. I'm packing on muscle. All the best with weight cut. And he's not coming. I just said, thank you. But I get it because we're here to perform. We've come down a weight category to perform as much as possible. We know that not doing much strength training is going to reduce your performance. It's risk benefit and higher risk, higher benefit. So I think we do it.
Perfect. And then you were saying, so creatine, you said B12?
Vitamin D3.
D3, sorry.
So we know not only is it really beneficial for bone health, we know it reduces illness quite a lot. So that's why everybody gets really ill in winter compared to summer. And a lot of combat sport athletes do get ill a lot, especially if you're thinking MMA, when you're wrestling a lot around people, if someone's got sniffles and then you've got them in chokehold for 3 times 5 minutes. So it's been shown to reduce illness risk. It's been shown to actually improve recovery from muscle damage in exercise. If you're getting sore a lot, it can really help in terms of helping reduce kind of that muscle damaging effect because you repair quicker. And really they're saying now that vitamin D3 isn't kind of a vitamin, it's more of a steroid.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a steroid hormone.
So is there a point where there's too much, or would you just...
Do you know what?
There's no such thing as too much?
It's hard, really hard to do. Some do. Having smaller daily boluses are more beneficial for health, especially bone, because there's only certain how much can get into that bone over time.
It's just urinated out.
Yeah. Well, it's not water soluble. It's actually fat soluble.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily get peed out, but it's going to compete for the same kind of space, which is allowing it to actually show could maybe have a little negative effect on kind of bone health. But on the flip side, for example, this is where practice meets theory. If I've got an athlete who's always forgetting to have his supplements, and I know loads who do, I'd probably give them that bolus, a big one, almost like 50,000 or 100,000 I use straight away, just to make sure actually you've got some vitamin D in you. But for people like you, it was really good. Having smaller doses every day, and literally I haven't seen a person yet who's took too much. I had a footballer who he was taking 20,000 every day, thinking it was 2,000, and he did it for...
How many tablets is that?
So the tablets you take is having 10 of them every day. 10 of them every day, right? And he did it for like 2-3 months. And I was thinking, I was getting to the storeroom and I'm thinking, where's all my stash gone and all these supplements? And then he decided to tell me, is there anything going to have to mix? I've been taking them every day. So we got his vitamin D levels checked and they were sky high. Like literally, I was like, you been sitting on sun or what? But there were no ill health effects.
No actual negative effects.
So it's very hard to do.
So we've got vitamins.
Vitamin D, creatine. From that, there'd be my main two. Omega-3 is up there from an anti-inflammatory effect. can help kind of improve kind of muscle strength and muscle hypertrophy. And also good if you are injured, can help reduce kind of muscle wastage in that injured limb. If you're eating a lot of fish, you probably might be all right, but not many people like fish.
Yep. And especially hitting the numbers what you actually need.
Yeah, you probably need to eat 2 salmon fillets every day, so it's going to be hard to do.
It was one of the... I was definitely lacking in omegas because I was vegetarian, vegan, never ate any fish, never took any supplementation, and it was one of the things that when we first started working, you were like, get this into you. And I had been using like a synthetic one when I was vegan. It was not the same.
They're rubbish, man.
There's things where you just have to get it from the actual source, and it's fish oil is the best way to do it.
There's a lot of stuff out there which is like that, and they're just kind of basically getting you to buy the wrong things.
Mm-hmm. One of the other ones we use a lot is beta-alanine.
Yep.
So that's the stuff that gives you the tingles.
Gives you the tingles. It's kind of a carnosine buffer, so it helps reduce lactate. So if you are getting heavy legged, heavy arms, so when I was driving up and I was listening to this, and you were on about UFC 209 when you said your legs and arms just were gone, heavy as anything, can help remove that lactate. But same again, I'd say from all the athletes I work with, I give it to about 2 of you, even though evidence is really good and it works. And the reason for that is it's hard to take.
Yep, because we've got it like with pretty much every meal.
Every meal for a minimum of 6 weeks.
Yep.
So you want 6 grams a day. So those tablets, we've got 1.5 grams. So we need to take 4 times a day. You absorb it better with food. You get the tingles. So many people don't like the tingles. So then they think, I'll just have 1 tablet. I don't want all 8. Or then they forget it.
I notice it reduces. See, the more you take it in your body,
you get used to it.
It probably is just your body getting used to it. But I definitely notice when I've been taking it during fight camp, when I first take it, I'm like, this again. And it definitely feels like it's crawling up the back of my neck. And it's just,
so if people are really good on point with it and really good, I will give it them. Mm-hmm. Same beta-alanine's in some meats. You can't get enough, but because you're vegetarian, we're going to get none of that, same as the creatine, so that's why I'm like, give it you.
So I keep a bottle in my car for after training, and I keep a bottle in the house, and I keep a powder as well. Yeah. So when I'm making my smoothie, because
it masks it.
Boom, it's in there, and then I know I'm taking it, and then it's the same as if I'm finished training. I'll just pop 2, and it's like, as we were saying, routine is, to be a high performing athlete, you have to have a routine. You've got to have
a routine, and this so me and Danny, we work together with the business, but also we do work separately. It's like if he's got a good athlete who's come to him for strength training, they've already got a nutritionist, I'm not going to step on their toes and say, you got to use me. And same with some athletes like yourselves who don't work with Danny, I'm never going to go, you should work with them. We've got good trust. And I forgot what did you say before? What were your conversations of? I've lost track.
It was just about routines.
Yeah, routines with stuff like that, and just getting really good kind of strength training, good supplementation, good kind of training. And then what I notice with people when they struggle with the weight, it isn't because of the diet, because I'm working with them. It's because they haven't got a set schedule. So they don't know Tuesdays and Wednesdays are wrestling, Friday's sparring day, Monday, Wednesday's striking, Saturday's my recovery run day. They'll go, I might do a bit of striking today. Tomorrow I'm going to rest. Tomorrow actually I'm going to do boxing, and then I'm going to do Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. Because I've done that, my coach says, you're looking tired, have 2-3 days off. And then before you know it, they haven't got consistent energy output. It's sporadic everywhere.
Yeah, because there's a calorie input. One day might be higher than another day, so then it's just all mixed up. Yeah,
exactly. And then if you're doing so much exercise on that day, and then we're not fueling it right, I guarantee you next day you're going to be starving.
Yep.
Or certainly that night. And then that day when you're starving and you're resting, you're probably over consuming calories. So saying one of the biggest piece of advice is get a schedule and just stick to it. I'm a
sucker for a schedule. I like going to my bed at 10 o'clock every night, wake up at 8 o'clock every morning, do the same thing, step on the scales at the exact same time. After I've done the exact same thing, I love a schedule. One of the things that is kind of quite a lot of people do, there's some evidence out there that supports it, but it's one of the things we tend not to do is fasted cardio or fasted workouts.
Yep.
I've seen there's got a lot of research out there saying that there is benefits to it, like periodising your carbohydrate intake. What's your thoughts on it?
I hate it, literally. And there's a variety of reasons. One is, if you're a weight-making athlete, the last thing you want to do is go without food. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be starving. So it's not going to be pleasant, not going to be enjoyable to do. Secondly, we want our athletes to be strong, to be quick, to be kind of thinking reaction time. Not having food is going to suppress that, because you're not going to have carbohydrates in the system. You're not going to have glucose to basically go to your brain as well as your muscles. If you've got no carbohydrates, I guarantee you your strength levels and your kind of speed is going to be absolutely rubbish. Thirdly is, we know from a lot of science which were done down at Bath University with James Betts, is they had two groups and they did quite a lot of studies on this. So they gave a group some breakfast before 11 a.m. and then they gave the other group no breakfast, but then at lunch they made up. So they had the same amount of calories as they would have in breakfast and lunch. And what they found is those who didn't have breakfast, they had a lower kind of movement metabolism, so neat energy. So actually when it got later in the day, the body slowed down quite a lot. So they moved less. So if you move less calorie output. So your body's almost kind of say, Paul, let's slow down. And then you tend to overeat at that night. And then what they did is actually they did an evening performance. So they did a rowing test, and it might have been like 2,000 metre hard rowing test. They gave the group the breakfast, they gave the other group it same again at lunch, and actually the breakfast group outperformed it by quite a wide margin percentage. Might have been 10 to 15% higher peak power output, quicker rowing time. And basically if you think, it takes a long time for food to get to where it needs to go. Yep. So the longer you give it, the more it's going to get in towards the muscles which we're going to use for energy. So therefore having it at breakfast, it's going to actually be stored as that muscle glycogen. So when we need to perform later on, it's already in the system.
One of the last things I want to know about is like the weight cut. What's your, like, let's say, gold standard for a weight cut protocol? What's like, percentage wise, like how much do you want to come in? Obviously we want to reduce salts, all that kind of stuff. So a quick breakdown for...
First and foremost, you need to have the food in the system before you do the weight cut. If you've got no food in the system, or the right foods, doing the same percentage weight cut is going to have two completely different outcomes for the people. So first and foremost, you need to make sure you're having enough carbohydrates in the body. You want to make sure you're having enough fibre in the body, so at least 30 gram per day, every day. You want to make sure that we are having some kind of salty foods, but in my opinion, that's the least important in terms of salt. The most important is carbohydrates, fibre, and actual kind of food volume, making sure we're having plenty of nice big fruit, vegetable based meals. Because we forget that a lot of kind of the fruits and vegetables, think of a big broccoli. If you steam a broccoli and then you eat it, it's really watery. Same if you're having a lot of maybe pineapple or apples, really watery. So then if we've got a lot of these good high fibre, whole grain, whole foods in our body, then we can drop body mass a lot more. Whereas if someone's just having a chicken and rice diet and not having that fibre or those fruit and vegetables, then they've hardly got anywhere to go when it comes to that fight week, and there's only one place where it's going to come, and that's dehydration. So depending on the person, depending on the diet, anywhere from 10, sometimes 12%, sort of big guy with a lot of food, to sometimes like most boxers are like around 6%. If you're female, which is really important because you don't have as much muscle glycogen stores, you haven't got as much body mass, you sweat a lot less than males. If you're on your menstrual cycle, with your body temperature, depending on the phase of the month, you sweat a lot less and you retain a lot more water, so you can fluctuate a lot more. Sometimes I like them to come in about 3%, 4% on fight week. Not like Kayla Harrison, who did 135, which I said unbelievable.
And then her muscle mass density,
massive. She was huge. How she's done that, fair play to her and her team.
I know, it's I guess it's knowing your athlete as well, isn't it? And it's like dealing with them on a regular basis, because
they haven't winged that.
What we did our first time working to what we do now, and then like Paul on a Friday doesn't really eat a lot after sparring because he's a wee bit, his appetite's suppressed, so I'll give him a smoothie. Right now it's actually changed, they need something a wee bit more, and it's as it's about knowing your athlete and having like a regular communication with them. But listen, I've taken up enough of your time. If you're looking to get in contact with Lee, you do quite a lot of good question and answers as well. You do
Boxing Science _ nutritionist Instagram. We try and do it for the people. So a lot of Q&As. I have a lot of people private messaging me and stuff like that. Usually I'll try and help as much as possible, especially if they're polite. If they go, "Hi Lee, I'm struggling, you got any advice?" I do. Some will say, "What do I need to eat to lose 2 kilograms this week?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ignoring you."
I imagine there's a lot of people that just want free advice, and that's what you're saying. I'll give you free advice, but there's there comes
to a point when you got to let there's a lot more what goes into it than just saying eat this.
Aye. And like we spoke about this, you had a high profile fighter come to you and say, "I need to lose this in 2 weeks," and you're like,
"Nope,
I can't. Like, I physically can't help you. It doesn't matter who you are or how much you're going to pay me. Like, I know the science, and you've got your reputation as well. You uphold as well. So if it's unachievable, I can help you as much as I possibly can, but I know you're not going to make it."
Yeah, I'll also tell you, I had someone recently who, his coach said, "Can I call you?" I said, "Yeah." I've got an athlete, needs to make weight on Saturday, can I have some advice? I said, "Yeah." So he phoned me, and he was 88 kilos. This was on the Wednesday, and he was boxing on the Saturday at 80 kilos for the same day weighing. And he says, 8 kg. And he says, "What can I do?" And I said, "Pull out." And you pull out now.
Did he make the weight?
I don't know. I've never been spoke to him since.
Aye, but it's one of these things. People think it is just about I'll just dehydrate myself.
Yeah,
and it comes back to that myth again of this is what we've done in the sport before. We dehydrate ourselves, we reduce salt, we reduce carbs, and then you expect to wake up and fight morning and be on weight. And that's why we have people step on the scales looking like death, or step on the scales and missing weight. And we've seen it today at Cage Warriors weigh-ins, somebody missed weight, and that's nothing other than planning and preparation. That's what that comes down to.
Poor planning, poor preparation. It's like when people miss weight, and some of me does feel bad for them, because you can see actually, if they're absolutely shredded and they've got 6-pack, 8-pack, no fat on them, they've missed weight, I'm going to go, fair play. You've probably tried your bollocks off and you just can't do it. If you see them who's got quite a lot of flesh and a lot of body fat and they're missing weight, I just think you lazy so-and-so.
Like, we know about fights easily 15, 12 weeks beforehand. We know what our fighting weight is, and we would stay within that. Like we spoke about that as well. When because after my first middleweight fight, you're like, come here, you. Try to bring me in and be like, listen, we need to be in within this range, because if we're going to fight again in a few months, then I need you to be here. And it's the same again. It comes down to having people in the right position doing the right job. Like having an IT guy doing bricklaying isn't going to work. Having a nutritionist doing nutrition, and as Lee said, it doesn't matter if it's you or if it's another nutritionist. Like, when you're trying to get to the next level to be a professional athlete, be it boxing, horse riding, it's these kind of 1% that make a difference. Improving your nutrition, improving your strength and conditioning. But listen, thank you so much. I know you've obviously really busy here with Sean doing the Cage Warriors. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Keep it high.
Thank you very much. Do you want me to do Anaconda? I've hurt my shoulder. I tore it.
Just so I can sync it up.
You don't have anything. You don't have any Anaconda.
By the way, I might actually have something on my back.
A wee shoulder.
I'll tell you when I was doing wrestling, because when we were at PI, you were doing wrestling, like you burn 150 calories and you're on your ass.
I'll message Hingy and get your.
No, I meant for me to do a shout out.
Shoulder bracelet. My shoulder's fucked.
How late is Chris with that?
Sorry, mate.
You need to have both. You need to have everything. Here we are.